As I was saying, that climate change has increased the frequency and magnitude of emergencies. So understanding how empirically emergency management networks form and perform is crucial to enhancing preparedness and response strategies. And moreover, we need to consider that emergencies force collaboration, as no single organizations possess the authority or technical resource to independently manage the entire response. So with that motivation in mind, the research question is: what are the mechanisms explaining the formation of an emergency management network? Specifically, how do coordinations and cooperation problems influence these formations? So the framework of the analysis is grounded in the risk hypothesis developed by Berardo and Scholz. They suggest that actors in a network setting select partners and form relationships based on the type and the level of risk associated with a collective action. So the risk hypothesis differentiate between coordination problems, coordination dilemmas. So we associate coordination problems with the preparedness phase and cooperation problems with the response phase. So coordination problems, if you think in a preparedness phase, we say that occurring during the preparedness phase and are characterized by low risk of defection, prompting actors to maximize efficiency, diversity, through risk relieving strategy, because in the preparedness phase, actors have more time. They can see the whole map of actors and potential relationships there, and there is no risk of defections because they are not measured by their response. So conversely, in the cooperation problems, we said that are associated with the response phase. Cooperation problems are marked by higher risk of defections. Here, actors prioritize redundant and tightly clustered relationships because they need to trust in the partners during the response phase. So they adopt a risk-sharing strategy. So considering that framework and where we differentiate between coordination problems associated with the preparedness phase and cooperation problems associated with the response phase, we present here 4 hypotheses. The hypothesis 1 is related with the risk relieving strategy, so the coordination strategy. So we said that actors are more likely to form a relationship with a star-like configuration where a central actor connects with multiple peripheral actors. So we are saying here that in the preparedness phase, municipal actors are going to select the popular and central actor of the network in order to have more efficient information, access to more information. The theoretical support that we have here is that star-like configurations extractors are efficient for coordination, reducing transaction costs. Such configurations are ideal for gathering diverse resources and information. Hypothesis 2 for the risk relieving strategy is that actors are going to prefer partnerships with dissimilar municipalities, such of those in different capacities and expertise. We are saying here that municipalities are going to prefer to select partners with other municipalities based on different capacity. And we operationalize later capacity, for example, in terms of resources or professionalizations. So actors prefer establish an heterophily, select partners based on the heterophily in order to have access to complementary skills and resources, encourage innovation and adaptation in emergency planning. And then we have two hypotheses associated with risk-sharing strategy. So we say that in hypothesis 3, that actors are less likely to form closed triangle configurations, which indicate redundancy and high levels of trust, because we are supporting the hypothesis 1. So they are not. We are saying that they are not going to form closed triangle configurations. And the theoretical support that we have is that they prefer that redundant ties are less necessary in the preparedness phase as defection risk. The hypothesis 4 is also associated with risk sharing strategy, in which actors avoid forming partnerships based on similarities in attributes, homophily, such as shared political, shared geographical or political characteristics. So the theoretical support that we have is similarity-based ties may limit the diversity of resource and information, reducing network efficiency. So we test this hypothesis in the context in the Santiago metropolitan region. The Santiago metropolitan region is the capital of Chile, is over 8 million residents. Around 40% of the population live in Santiago metropolitan Chile. Is defined as a polycentric urban system divided in 52 local governments. There are some key characteristics of the Santiago metropolitan region that I would like to share with you. For example, in terms of geographical and environmental risks, Santiago has a high exposure to natural disasters, including earthquakes, wildfires, and floods. There is also a key characteristic of the Santiago metropolitan region in terms of social and economic inequalities. We find significant disparities in municipal revenues, where the wealthiest municipalities receive 28 times more revenues than the poorest one. In terms of institutional capacity, we can find uneven levels of professionalization in municipal employees. Municipalities has high dependency on a national municipal common fund for fiscal resources. The data collection, we collect data on municipal transparency websites. We collect official documents detailing intermunicipal agreements. We complement this data with a direct request of the municipal agreement to the 52 municipalities to ensure data completeness. The data set that we have here is 108 intermunicipal agreements focused on collaboration for emergency management networks. We represent these 108 intermunicipal agreements in a 52 by 52 adjacency matrix, where rows and columns indicate municipalities and the presence of a link represents a formal agreement. The data analysis, to test our hypothesis, we use exponential random graph model used to statistically analyze the network. Ergoms identify patterns and mechanisms driving type formation, such as centralization, clustering, or attribute-based connection. And conceptually, ergoms are similar to a logistic regression analysis, where a connection between two nodes is predicted based on network configurations that can serve as independent variables in the model. Here is the operationalization of the variables. Have different code and the source. We have the hypothesis, the code that we use in the ergom model, the configuration expected, and the source. As I said, all the data was collected from official, is secondary data from official government. Here is the result of the model. You can see that Starlight configuration hypothesis 1 is negative and significant, resource heterophyll is positive and significant, and then we have some control variables we are also significant. So I'm going to move to share with you the findings. In the planned emergency management network in the Santiago metropolitan region comprises 206 links with a density of 7.8%, exhibit moderate centralization, 47%, where a few municipal act as a hubs. You can see here LCO, SCLs, which are big municipalities, that have more links than others. Regarding the risk relieving strategy, we have evidence to support the adoption of risk relieving strategy by local actors. As we saw recently in the model, we found a Starlight configuration where central actors serve as coordinators, ensuring efficient transmission and resource information. We also found resource heterophyly. Municipal actors are more likely to form ties between municipalities with dissimilar fiscal resources. On contrary, findings reveal the lack of risk in risk sharing behaviors, in the sense that actors avoid to build ties with redundant relationships, which are may be costly and unnecessary in the preparedness phase, because they are thinking that they need more diverse collaborations, and the attribute homophily is no significant. They have no significant preference for partnerships based on shared characteristics such as political affiliation, which is interesting because maybe here they have a more, the political party is not something in which they are basing their emergency planning strategy. They have a more strategic approach when they have to select an apartment and form an agreement beforehand. In summary, we can say that regarding the risk relieving strategy, Starlight configuration, central actors or municipal actors prefer to establish ties with central actors to ensure efficient resource and information flow. They also prefer form ties between municipalities with different capacities in terms of fiscal resources. We also have evidence to say that we don't observe here risk-sharing strategies. Actors avoid redundant, costly relationships. There is a lack of homophily. Collaboration is not based on shared attributes such as the political party. And we are saying here that our theoretical contribution demonstrates that how risk dynamics can influence the planned emergency network structure. Of course, this work has several limitations. The study focused only in the case of Santiago metropolitan region. The findings in this way may lack generalizability to other regions or contexts, particularly those outside the Global South. The analysis only provides a cross-sectional view of the network based on only on intermunicipal agreement, meaning that does not and also this study does not capture the evolution of the network over time or changes during different emergency phases. That is my presentations, and I look forward to your comments and the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Camille, for a stimulating, interesting description of what happens in the Santiago area, bearing in mind that it is very important that we understand how to manage emergencies in large metropolitan areas, of which there are many in the world. I'd like to hand over now to Dr. Evje Hendricks, the discussant today, for her comments on the paper. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you also for inviting me here. I was really enjoying the presentation today of you, Camilla, and nice to see your work. I fully understand this is a work in progress, so what I give you is a lot of questions maybe that you can take into account maybe in the further development of this study. But I think you have found a very relevant topic and around emergency management and the role of networks, and I think this is very valuable for many partners that are working in emergency coordination around the world. So maybe that's my first question, and you already told us this is maybe not a study that can be easily translated to other contexts, but my question is, how could it be? Because there's a lot of different networks around the world that have been used in emergency planning, and I was wondering what lessons have you drawn from other areas where you have seen different types of hypotheses and maybe how they have influenced the formulation of your hypothesis. So I was wondering what you've taken from there to build your theory around these hypotheses. So maybe you can explain us a little bit more about that today. And maybe you also see similarities in the way disasters have been coordinated in other countries. I was also wondering about the planned, so you say this is a planned network, so it's a planned emergency network. Does this also transfer or translate to an emergency practice? So especially, we can prepare a lot of things, but is that also how in reality the emergency is actually coordinated? So I wonder if also this also relates to the data collection. So you look at your data collection, look at available documentation around inter-municipal agreements that are actually formalized, so that you can find data on how the way they are collaborating. So I was thinking, are there also less formalized data sources or less formalized relationships that might not be presented in the documents, but are actually very valuable in emergency response? And we know from many disasters around the world that inhabitants have a very big role in emergency response and coordination as well. So I was wondering how these relationships that you found in documentation also present the reality in those municipalities. So might there be another reality that is maybe not covered in the documentations through the data collection that you chose for? So when I look at your results, you say, okay, we found actually that there's a sort of centrality in the network. We see that there's different stakeholders that are quite central in those networks. That can have a lot of positive things. For example, you say, okay, it might be more efficient. But for example, in my work in Nepal, I also saw that it might also be a little bit problematic if there's a lot of dependency on one actor. For example, in the reconstruction process in Nepal, there was a lot of dependency in the networks on temporarily assigned young engineers in the reconstruction process. So if they move back, they were very eager to move back to the capital for after the reconstruction phase. So if the dependency on knowledge and the dependency of coordination goes away from this stakeholder, so then what is then the resilience of that whole network on the long term? So you already say, okay, we don't know exactly what the temporal role is of these stakeholders, but it might be something to consider maybe in the discussion of your results as well. So I was also wondering that of course, you see in this centrality, you already see there's a certain dominance of certain stakeholders in the network. Yeah, I was also wondering, how do you measure their dominance also in communication? So they might be people might be dependent on certain actors, but also what other roles do they have in the coordination and communication? So you say I was wondering also about the success. So eventually, of course, you measure these types of configurations to look at what is the success of the network on the short term in the coordination phase. But you already say, okay, what is the success on the long term? In Nepal, but also in Pakistan, they have such a network that was activated after a big disaster, but also continues to exist also in the reconstruction phase, and they have taken that coordination role. There's a recent publication that came out, I think last week, around the success of these networks and what makes them successful. So when you look at success of these networks, I was not fully sure what you look at. Because I saw that you look at efficiency of information flow and efficiency of coordination. But is that also success for example, marginalized groups? Yeah, so we can be very efficient, but we can maybe overlook certain groups in that process. So I wonder how these networks represent the success and how do you define that success? And maybe linked to that is also the localization. So the selection of partners, I think, is very important also for many humanitarian organizations. So how do we select partners and localize efforts? So also the way you found the existence of these networks, how does that relate to the debate around localization of aid and maybe identifying what kind of network or what kind of structure is best to invest in? So I was wondering if maybe you can also reflect a little bit on that. And then maybe a last comment is about the risk-sharing behavior. I did not fully understand what kind of risks are you covering here? What is the risk behavior that you're identifying there, that they are avoiding? So Camilla, I think these are a lot of questions. I'm fully aware of that. So you don't need to address them all today. Some might be for further thought, but yeah, I'm happy to also continue discussing it with you after the meeting. If you want to have a further debate on this. Yeah, so these are my suggestions just based on your presentation today.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Alexander, I should answer here? Yeah.
Yes, I think it would be good so that we don't lose track of the principal questions, if you can say something in answer to them briefly.
Okay. Well, you have, I mean, I've been presenting this paper in several conferences, and I've been reflecting on the results and the limitation of the study. And of course, you you identify the main, I mean, flaws that this work has. But for example, one interesting point that you highlight is referred to the planned emergency management networks. And here we only consider inter-municipal agreements. But we know that, for example, in the Santiago Metropolitan Regions, actors have a regional plan. And also, they have a national emergency management plan. But we also know that informal relationships are really important in the emergency management as a whole. So we are only looking intermunicipal agreements, and the future of this work is try to consider overlapping relationships and more actors, because here we also only we are only considering intermunicipal agreements, but we know that every response is broader than municipal actors, you know. So yeah, it's really important to try to consider those actors those actors and the importance of overlapping relationships in future studies. Another important aspect that you highlight is regarding with this idea of well, we are going to prioritize efficiency and diversity, but in that way we connect with actors. We are central and popular and have more resources and equipment than us, and in a way they are replicating the disparities. The initial disparities that I already have in the network are replicated through the interlocal agreements. So that is a really interesting point in the Global South context, where some actors, central and popular actors, can have all the resources and capture the network in a way. So that is a really important point. And we are not in emergency management, but considering network governance, the results are, and in other regions of Chile, the results are consistent. So actors, municipal actors, tend to have that partnering strategy, which can, on one way, be good to have information and be prepared, but for other, replicate the initial segregation that the municipal actors have. And yeah, the dominance of the network dependency in, yeah, I think that is a really interesting point considering the Global South reality. Do you want to say something?
I wonder if at this point we could bring in the peer commentator, Shamima Akhtar-Shaunu, and hear what she has to say.
Okay, I think I observed a very nice presentation, and this is my first time I am joining any big platform. So from my understanding that the location you said, Santiago Metropolitan, it is vulnerable to earthquake and wildfire. So I'm just wondering, is the emergency management plan for both are same, or do they have a different kind of emergency management plan? Because from my understanding that if a earthquake happened, then the activities are different rather than wildfire. So I'm just wondering with this question that the plan you have analyzed, is it basically focused on any specific disaster, or it is overall management system?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and is related with the content of the intermunicipal agreements. I can say that we review all the agreements between 2 or more municipalities, and they are not really specific. I mean, they establish a particular clause. I don't know what is the technical word for here, but they cover any
kind of disaster.
Yeah, any kind of disaster, including earthquakes, wildfires, floods, and they say they are going to have further detailed protocols in certain cases. But those documents, we don't have those documents. We only have the main document signed by the municipal actors. But it's interesting because they cover all type of disaster, and they are not specific.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Right, so I wonder if we could now pass to questions, and I wonder if I could exercise Chair's prerogative by asking a couple of questions myself first time around. I was really intrigued by what you had to say because I can compare it with where I live. I live in Italy, which is a country that has 8,000 municipalities and 20 regions, and its hubs tend to be organized such that 4 or 5 smaller municipalities depend on each hub. All of that is governed by national practice and organized regionally. First of all, you talk about actors or stakeholders. Could you clarify exactly what this means? Is it purely municipal governments, or does it also include things like search and rescue teams or volunteer ambulance teams or civil protection volunteer organizations?
No, it's just agreements between a municipality and does not include volunteers.
Right, so that's good to get that clear. I'm wondering, let's see, to what extent are local agreements governed by national rules? You say there is a national plan or national structures as well. It seems to me that you've got a really large degree of local autonomy here with respect to these things. If you could comment on the extent to which that is true and whether it's a particularly good thing.
Well, the emergency management function is a shared policy between the national, regional, and local level. So powers are assigned to the different levels. But for example, in a case of an extreme disaster like earthquake or a major wildfire, the national level has the authority to coordinate the whole response, including the regional level and the local level. Municipal actors has some autonomy, but I can say that in the case of Chile, we can find a more centralized, in cases when the event is extreme, we can find a centralized response rather than a local response. But municipal actors has incentives to prepare and anticipate because mayors are elected and they have incentives to coordinate the response in coherence with the national policy, but also in their own terms.
Thank you. That's really interesting. Now, I think it's important that others have the opportunity to ask questions. So let's throw that open to whoever would like to do so. Yes, please.
Well, if I may, I have another question for you. So I was also looking at one of the comments you made about the high dependency on municipal funds. So you say, okay, there's a big role of the funding of the donor actually in those networks. So I was wondering, to what extent did you look at the way, the conditions to the donations as well? So what is the role of the donor in these networks? Is it really an information source, or is it really that they completely follow the conditions that are placed for cats? And is that why they have such a central role? Because at least that's what we, for example, saw in Nepal as well, that the conditions to cash gave certain access a very dominant role because they just had to comply with these conditions. So I was wondering how that is in your context.
Well, the municipal fund is an instrument that is not related with donations. All the municipalities in Chile have, they give a percentage to that municipal fund in relation with their revenues. So they have a common fund, but is how can I explain this? It's not made by donors. It's made by the national the national taxes give municipalities certain amount of money, and also municipalities can gather some money for other sources, and then they have like a common fund, and they help each other between them. I don't know if it's something common in other realities, but it's a solidarity fund that they have. Considering that, for example, in the case of Chile, we have municipalities that are super rich and comparable to Europe reality, and others compared to the African reality, if I could say that. It's a redistributional fund.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's more like a sort of a loan that they, or like a, like a fund that they distribute among each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something you might also find in Scandinavia as well, where they're pretty keen on that sort of thing. I was wondering about the common operating picture. Situational awareness in emergency is terribly important, and we have a lot of cases where there's been less than optimal emergency management because things of information that is vital has not been shared enough. How well do municipalities share situational awareness, the common operating picture when there are emergencies?
How, like the mechanisms that they have?
Yes, and are they effective?
If how they evaluate their.
I mean, what mechanisms do they have, and do they work? Are they effective? Do they function well?
If I mean, it depends on each municipality. In the Santiago metropolitan region, we have 52 municipalities, and I could say that municipalities with big budgets and higher levels of professionalization have better results than even in Santiago metropolitan region. In the rural areas, some municipalities, they don't have like professionals, or they have professionals for certain type of project, and they are not permanent staff. So the reality of Santiago is really unequal, and that affects how they develop their work.
Interesting. More questions?
I have two questions. Camilla, thanks for a very interesting presentation. Even though I'm not familiar with the field, but I found it very interesting in terms of similarities, because FU was, she highlighted South Asian countries to which I belong, and I think I can see that comparisons of broad pattern. So my first question is, you talked about comparisons, if it can be compared or not, if the realities can be compared or not. What about the neighboring countries? Planned emergency networks and the politics. Is it comparable to Bolivia, Peru, and Argentina? Given that emergencies and a lot of geographic and climate attributes are very much similar. And the second one is the model which you are using, and I think that's is it the only way to carry out the data analysis or the answers your research question, or do you think that there might be some other ways as well? So what's the justification of using this model?
Okay, perfect. In relation with the first question, I believe that maybe these results could be applied to the reality of centralized countries like Peru or Bolivia, which have like the same like way they have the same way to organize the public administrative functions and the layers that we have. They have like a national, a regional, and a local level, and although some municipalities have certain type of autonomy, most of the policies are central, and we have like a centralistic approach to manage public policies. But the reality of Argentina in Brazil is kind of different, because those are federal countries. Each state has their own rules. And I know, for example, that in the case of Brazil, instead of incentive the interlocal agreements between municipalities, they have something called consortio, which is a collective of municipalities taking decisions in one territory. And yeah, in that case, I believe in collaboration with some academics in Latin America, we can build some words and try to compare cases. We are trying to explore the Chilean, but not in emergency management, the Chilean and Argentinian reality in terms of governance, but that is a work in progress. But certainly comparing more the difference than comparing more the difference. And the second question, I believe, is an excellent question. In my perspective and in my understanding, I think in order to have empirical findings and proof, empirical hypotheses, we could use this type of model to have like a first image of the reality. But certainly, if we want to go further, and this is in consistent with the Hendricks question about the risk sharing behavior, if we have to truly evaluate the risk sharing strategies of actors, we need to incorporate, for example, interviews and more qualitative in-depth analysis, and that is what I am trying to do in my PhD. I didn't respond many questions of Hendrik, but we can I can send you an email later, because I have the paper, and maybe I could share the paper with all of you. And yeah, the answer that I didn't respond is in relation with the performance of this network, with the outcomes of this network. Here we are only, in my understanding, evaluating how actors select partners, and that is a critical point in an emergency management system, how I connect and I develop ties with other actors. But the second phase is try to investigate if that network that we create to face a certain type of emergency is really effective or not, and what is our understanding of effectiveness if we consider a relational approach in which the authority is distributed among different and fragmented authorities, and so on and so on. So thank you for giving me the opportunity for this invitation, and I would love to share my PhD project with you, and thank you for all the comments, and thank you for the chair for leading the discussion as well.
And thank you very much, Camila, for a presentation which is both insightful and fascinating and increases our knowledge of emergency planning and management at the local level, a very important topic indeed. And many thanks to Dr. Hendricks and Ms. Shamima for their insights, and to everyone who attended the session today. Remember that the Global South Network warmly welcomes PhD students from any discipline and any part of the world to share their projects and receive interdisciplinary feedback. If you are interested in presenting your work or participating in a session, you can contact Dr. Nauman Rayat, the founder and convener of the Global South Network, and the email address is in the chat box. Next week at this time, the next guest speaker will be RVK Dandamundi, PhD candidate in the Faculty of Law at the University of Cambridge, who will present part of their project entitled Developing a Conceptual and Historical Account of the Development of Constitutionalism in Late Colonial India, 1857-1947. So that will be on the 2nd of July from 1500 to 1600 UK time. It remains to me to say thank you very much to all of you for this stimulating hour that we've had. Look after yourselves, good luck with your work, and take care. So goodbye from me and goodbye to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Good luck,
Bye.
Camila.
Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.